Welcome all, and thank you for joining us tonight for the first in our Practice Elevate webinar series. My name is Jack Meagher and I am a Director of MediPay Private. But before I introduce our presenter this evening, I'd just like to take a moment to, tell you a little bit more about what we do here at MediPay Private. Our core focus and our passion, lies in providing innovative payment and lending solutions to healthcare professionals and their patients across Australia. Now, in the patient finance space, we partner with practices to provide our easy payment plans. Now, not only does this product improve access to treatment and affordability for your patients, but importantly allows you to expand your patient base and accelerate cash flow without any admin hassle or cost. Now, further to this, we're able to work with you in facilitating any personal practice finance needs that you might have. So in this role, we act as an intermediary between you and the banks, and we negotiate on your behalf to secure the most competitive rates and favourable terms across all your debt requirements. So if you're looking to finance your next vehicle, if you're looking to upgrade some equipment or buy a property, we can help manage that process from start to finish, and we can ensure that the best outcomes are achieved. Now, the reason why so many dental practitioners choose MediPay Private, it comes down to the quality of our advisors, both from an experience and a specialisation point of view, the fact that we're able to offer real choice and provide the right solution, regardless of who the lender is, our premium service offering, which saves you both time and effort, and the ability of our team to unlock a range of benefits that can often result in significant cost savings. Now, our goal is to work with you for the long term, to understand your vision and to build a strategy that enables you to get there sooner. Now, as you'd be fully aware, there are many moving parts to a successful practice. And one of the aims of this series is to connect you with experts and thought leaders within the industry who can offer their own insight, their own experiences and advice across a broad range of topics. Now, with that, I'd like to introduce you to our presenter this evening, Dr. David Moffet. David is not only a highly experienced and successful dentist, but an international consultant and author, and we are lucky enough to have him here with us tonight to provide an introduction into how you can start to build the dental practice of your dreams. And with that, David, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks very much. My practice is located in Western Sydney. So this is a photo I took of Sydney as I arrived home one afternoon, I think. There's a westerly sun showing on the buildings there. I like to remind myself what Sydney looked like because my practice was 20 miles upstream at Parramatta in the heart of Western Sydney, where people who lived there lived in average homes, they drove average cars, they had average incomes, and they were pretty well, just average sort of people. And so people said, well, David, you had a successful practice. Obviously, you had a very glamorous looking practice out there that attracted people. But no, this was the building that my dental practice was in. When I bought the practice, it was up there on the third floor, had a small suite with two chairs. One of them had a pump-up chair, the other one a right-handed chair, and I was left-handed. There was one other person working there. That was a receptionist come dental assistant. And the dentist who I bought it off, when he needed the dental assistant to help him, he used to ring a bell. So that's what it was back then in 1987 when I bought the practice. 2007, sold the dental practice to Dental Corporation. I was one of the first 8 or 9. I had built the practice hoping that somebody would come along with a fistful of money to pay me what businesses should be worth, because I knew that dental businesses were never valued like news agencies, fish and chip shops, fruit shops. They were never valued on mathematics and performance. They were valued by some stupid formula, which was, the value of your equipment, the value of your stock, 1/3 of your goodwill, and hope to negotiate. And I thought that was a really rotten way to value. And I played golf with a doctor who sold to a corporation back in the early 2000s, and he told me, all the advantages of that and what it had done to change his life. And I really hoped that would come to dentistry, and it did. And it did. People say, well, when you sold in 2007, David, you obviously, put your feet up and relaxed, and had a 5-year contract with Dental Corporation, and that was far from the case. I actually kept building the practice for Dental Corporation in the 5 years after I sold. So these were my last 5 years of my own personal collections. Didn't include my hygienist or my associate dentist, but in 2007, 1.5 million. Moving through to 2011, 1.8 million just with my own hands in Western Sydney, doing 150 days in 2011 at an average of $1,352 per hour in 2011. So my hourly rate went up, the number of days I worked went down, but my collections, my personal collections went up. Well, people say, well, David, you obviously were very, very lucky. And I say to them, no, well, look, it wasn't always that way. I bought the practice in 87. By the mid-90s, I was getting a little bit burnt out and actually tried to sell the practice in 1996 and couldn't give it away. In 1996, I plateaued at around $400,000 a year for 4 years. I tried to sell the practice for $160,000 and found no takers. In fact, I had 3 dentists look at the practice. They said to me, after I told them how good it was and what I was doing to beat my competition, these 3 dentists each individually went and either bought or set up a practice in competition with me in Parramatta. And I thought, well, obviously that plan's not working. I've got to do something different. So started in 1997. I remember going home to my wife with a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old. I didn't bring them home. She had them at home. And I said, look, we're going to have to stay at this practice and turn it around. And when I say turn it around, I'm going to have to turn my attitude around, because we were all, the average dentist was doing about 200,000 in 1996, and I was doing 400,000. I said, we just need to inject some funds into the practice. And trouble is, we're going to have to sell our house, take the equity from our home and put it into the practice. We're going to have to rent for 5 years. And that's not a nice thing to have to say to a young mother, young wife. Of course, women do like to have that nesting influence. So that's what we did. Couldn't sell the practice in 1997 for 160,000, ended up selling it for what is well documented, 2.75 million to Dental Corporation in 2007. Big change. People say, well, look, David, you did it your way, but I'm going to do it my way. I'm a good dentist and people are going to come to me. And I say, well, that's rubbish, because some of the best dentists that I know, the guys who were able to cut up cadavers with precision in dental school, and the guys who did the best root canals in dental school, didn't really go on to have great practices at all. They had very average sort of practices. The general public don't know who's a good dentist, who's a great dentist. All they know is that you have a degree and you should be a great dentist. That's what they think. And other dentists tell me, well, look, my business is different. My area is different. My patients are different. I can't do what you did, David. And I tell you that anybody can. And I've seen people change their practices dramatically while I've been coaching dentists if they just, as Yoda says, trust the force and believe that they can make the changes. But to make the changes, you've got to have the right crew on board. You can't do it with the wrong crew. You certainly can't do it with somebody who's always texting on their phone. You certainly can't do it with somebody who's actively filing instead of speaking to your customers and patients. And you've got to be wary of the onboard terrorist, who is someone who is nice to you, tells you that they're doing everything right, but in the most time when you're not watching, while you've got your head down somebody's mouth, that onboard terrorist is fighting with the other staff and also being rude to your customers and patients as well, and that can happen. You've got to be wary of the mother hen working in your business, very protective of the inadequacies of some of the other staff. They've got to be able to let those staff grow and blossom. And then, of course, there's the queen bee who just wants to protect herself and will shoot the others and kill the others if she needs to maintain her position in the practice. You've got to look at yourself, doctors, as well. You cannot be a micromanager in your practice. You've got to be able to build other people to lead in your practice. And I find a lot of dentists too, when there's a problem in their practice, they just stick their head in their sand and hope that their their problem goes away. Other dentists use the seagull mentality in managing their staff and their practice. That is, they fly in, they squawk around, they often defecate excrement, and then they just fly away and hope that that works. And I tell you, that doesn't work either. You've got to have systems in your practice, and you need to have those systems working for you. It's as simple as that. So you ask, how do you start an ultimate patient experience in your dental practice? See, there I am. I've got my loops up on my head, got my favorite patient with the dentistry that I did, and there's her picture up on the wall behind me. Well, let me tell you, it's not magic. It's not magic to create an ultimate patient experience in your practice. I didn't do it by magic, I did it by systems. And I did it simply in this way. I divided the patient visit up into, or the patient experience up into 5 simple building blocks. What I did was I looked at dentistry from the patient's point of view. Most people look at dentistry from the dentist's point of view. How do we set up the instruments? How do we do this procedure? How do we do that procedure? And of course, we forget that there's actually a human being on the end of everything that we're doing, and we're ignoring their feelings, their emotions, their waiting times, and things like that, while we automate and manage our own navel gazing at the expense of the patient experience. And really, there's some gaping holes in how people look after their patients, or fail to look after their patients, that are causing those leaks in those buckets in those dental practices. So we looked at the dental practice, or I looked at the dental practice from the patient's point of view, and I came up with this flow chart of what a dental practice does. And a dental practice does this for patients. They come for usually one of 3 reasons. They come for a hygiene visit, they come for a treatment visit, or they come for a consultation. And if we can systematize their visit so that we know what they're going to have done, and then we can anticipate how we can please them and how we can avoid disappointing them at each and every one of those steps, we can go a long way to having a predictable outcome for our patients instead of making it up as we go along. The other thing is that patients enter via one of 2 means into the practice. They're either existing patients or they're new patients as well. And so they enter through one of those 2 red funnels. So you'll notice that the colors of those steps match the color of those building blocks. So you might be looking at this and saying, well, David, I'm a little bit lost with those. There must be something like over 50 steps. Well, there are over 57 steps. And let me tell you, it is easy to get lost even in familiar circumstances, but you really do need people holding your hand to help you in situations where you are lost and they're speaking a different language. And of course, that is what happens when people look at trying to change their business for the better. So a couple of people that I've worked with, here's Dr. Rachel Hall from Brisbane, contacted me. Her practice was doing $60,000 a month, and she felt a bit burnt out. She'd had the practice for 10 years. She knew she could do better, but she didn't know what to do. And this picture was taken, I think, 5 months, first time I met her, but this picture was taken about 5 months after I started working with her. Worked with her via phone and Skype. And Rachel went from $60,000 a month to $100,000 a month in about 4 months, and after 20 months, Rachel hit $150,000 a month. So her practice went from doing under $700,000, just under $700,000 a year, to $1.8 million a year in 20 months. And so in 20 months, I added an extra $1 million to Rachel's turnover, simply by fixing some systems and some approaches to the way the patients were treated, booked in her dental practice. Now imagine if Rachel had put that off for a couple of years, she'd be 2 years later and a couple of $1 million short of getting to her end result, wouldn't she? Here's Dr. Lacey Andriotta from New Orleans, Louisiana. And she's been a dentist for 4 years. And she was in a practice that was doing Medicaid over there, which is just seeing people and the government pays. And it's a really great system because you've got to book 3 people in for every hygiene appointment, because 2 of them are probably not going to come, and maybe the 3rd one not either. You just got to hope that you can burn through 60 or 70 patients a day, and the government gives you a pittance for doing that. And by keeping busy, you hope you make a profit. And she thought, I can't do that. I'm a young dentist. There's got to be a better way, and I've got a 2-year-old son and a husband that I need to look after. So she contacted me, and we worked out a plan for changing that practice. And we set a 12-month plan, but within 8 months, she had completely eliminated Medicaid from her practice, and she's now seeing only patients that are paying. She's getting no money from the government at all. And in doing that, she's seeing far less patients per day, but in the 11 months that I've been working with her, she's got a forecast of a $300,000 increase per annum. She's on track, $300,000 increase in her practice, what she was doing a year ago and what she's doing now. And she's had record months since getting rid of the Medicaid a few months ago. And again, it's because she trusted the force. She believed that there had to be a better way, and she let me help her do it. I didn't think that she could get rid of the Medicaid in 8 months and become fee for service, but she did.